Okay.
But if it's going to be, if people aren't able to hear me up there, then no.
I think it should be fine. The basics with this, just hold it. You've got a built-in pop filter, which is great. It makes the sound a little better. Just hold it like this, kind of right in front of you. Don't put it up against your mask. Don't hold it too far down. There's going to be one mic per table, so just use the same mic every single time. That'll make it easier for me. And then
All right. We have a packed agenda today, so I want to get us started. I'll keep my remarks pretty brief. First, I just want to thank everybody for being here, all the candidates for taking the time to talk about these important issues. And I also want to thank all the groups that we're co-hosting this forum with: Hudson County Complete Streets, Bike North Bergen, Bike JC, Bike Hoboken. I hope I'm not missing anyone, and SafeStreets Jersey City. What's that? And last but not least, Empower New Jersey. I want to actually give special thanks for Empower New Jersey. Our discussion today is about safety, mobility, and the climate. And that last one, Empower New Jersey, has been on the front lines talking about these huge projects that have been happening in New Jersey. $24 billion, now $30 billion in highway widenings all across New Jersey. In the middle of COVID, before anybody noticed what was happening, they were there pointing out the problems and fighting for the climate. Safety, mobility, and the climate. Why are these things related, right? In New Jersey, the #1 source of climate change pollution of greenhouse gases is transportation. That means automobiles, right? That's twice as much as comes from power generation. If we don't make any changes to this, we can't make improvements for the climate. Second, mobility and safety. 50% of trips are under 3 miles, 50%. But they're not safe to do walking or biking in all cases. And some of our most dangerous roads are our county roads and our state roads. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We have a choice tonight. This is the choice our county faces. Our county has a population of 725,000 people in about 46 square miles. That is greater than the population of Boston. We don't have a transportation system to match that. We have a choice of accepting crash deaths, 30 in Hudson County in 2021 and 17 last year. We can accept the status quo and just say they're just accidents. We don't call them accidents because they're preventable crashes. We can say that, you know, these are just other people's fault. Every crash is just somebody else's fault. Or we can make changes, as we have in Jersey City and Hoboken, to adopt Vision Zero and use design and use enforcement to create an atmosphere of safe driving that will prevent crash deaths and lead to more sustainable transportation. Last, I just want to mention congestion pricing. New York City is going to be implementing congestion pricing. It was approved on a federal level, so now it's not just the law of the land in New York State, but also has been federally approved. Why are we spending $10.7 billion to smash against this wall of congestion pricing? The people of New York City and of New York State are asking for clean air, safe streets, and investments in mass transportation. Do New Jerseyans not deserve the same? And that is also what we will be talking about tonight. And so with that, I just also want to thank the library, Five Corners Library, for being our gracious hosts tonight. I think they'll have some remarks at the end, which we'll reserve some time for them to be able to do. And with that, I want to give each of the candidates a quick 45 seconds to introduce yourself, you know, say what district you're running for, and a quick intro. So yeah, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Ron Bautista. I'm running for District 5 for County Commissioner. This is not my first time running. I actually ran in 2020, got 40% of the vote, and that was in my first 4 years as a US citizen. By the raise of hands, who can tell me if they've seen those back buttons that you need to press in order to cross the street? All right, and how many of you have pressed it and at one point or another, they have never turned into a walk sign? All right, sometimes that happens. That's exactly what happens with Anthony Romano as our county commissioner. You can ask him all you want to make our streets safer, to let us cross our streets in a safe way, and he won't do it. In 2016, there was a boy named George Gonzalez. He was an 11-year-old boy, and he was hit and killed on JFK Boulevard and Neptune. And I was already an advocate for safer streets back then, and this just crushed me because this is something that we could have changed and we could have prevented, but we still haven't. It's been 7 years. I say no more, no más. Like, we can't wait anymore.
Hi, my name is TJ Sanger. I'm a District 1 candidate for County Commissioner. I grew up in Bayonne all my life, and there's several intersections that we were raised to be mindful of, more so than others. You always have to look both ways before crossing the street, but there's a few that you have to look twice. And over the years, there has been not enough effort and energy in Bayonne to kind of improve the traffic patterns that are in existence. There's been plenty of injuries and deaths on that intersection for connecting 440 and Bayonne by the 34th Street Light Rail Station to get to Stop and Shop, and a bridge would prevent that, and that's been something people have been asking for far too long, and something that needs to get talked about.
Right. You ready, Colin? Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. My name is Elena Little. I'm running for Hudson County Executive. Like Ron, this is not my first time running for office. I ran for Hudson County Commissioner in 2020 and got over 45% of the vote, running on a platform that included safe streets on our improving street safety on our county roads and bus rapid transit for Hudson County. I'm continuing to push for these issues this time around, and you know, these crashes that we see on our county roads are preventable. I'm an engineer, so I look at problems and I want to solve them. Specifically, I'm an environmental engineer, and climate change is here, and we need to make sure we're facing that fact. So we need candidates who will stand up for world-class bus rapid transit systems and not stand for things like widening the Turnpike extension, which is going to bring an additional 100,000 vehicle miles traveled per day, it's projected. So it's wrong for our communities, it's wrong for our health, it's wrong for the climate. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Martinez, she, they, and I was born and raised in Hudson County, North Bergen. I'm running for Hudson County Commissioner for District 8, and I'm sorry if I can't really enunciate that well. I had my wisdom teeth removed a couple of days ago, but despite that, I'm still here because I'm here to say no more to dying and getting injured on our roads. I went to a county commissioner meeting for a redesign of Boulevard East on my birthday. So I'm here no matter what, because I want to see change. And I'm a first gen, Gen Z, Latina, young. You already know that I was born with impatience for change.
Commissioner Bill O'Day, District 2. I've had the opportunity to work with many of the advocacy groups working together. We were successful last year to convince the county to apply for the Vision Zero planning grant, which we received. Now working to get the proper committee put together to give full representation to all the advocacy groups throughout the county that deserve to be heard. I've worked with John and Empower NJ on our opposition to the expansion of the Jersey Turnpike. We were able to meet together with Mayor Fulop and get him to strongly come out against it. I'm certainly looking forward to continuing to work with all these organizations to continue to fight to get more safety, more pedestrian safety on our county roads.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mamta Singh. I'm running for Hudson County Commissioner for District 4. I moved to Jersey City 14 years ago from India, and since then I've been very involved in the community. I have been on the board for Youth Foundation of Jersey City, Hamilton Park Conservancy, and AAPI. I volunteer my services whenever I get an opportunity. I have been volunteering for Farmers Market, Neighborhood Association, and I also started my not-for-profit organization to give a platform to families to connect with each other and to provide free resources. I'm a cyclist, and I definitely can tell you from my experience that I do not feel safe when I take cycle to work, and there are multiple reasons which we are going to talk about in few minutes. Thank you again for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adrian Gainda. I was born and raised here in Jersey City, and I've been an advocate since I was in college not too long ago. And the reason I'm so passionate about street safety is because I remember running across Kennedy Boulevard when I was younger, and now that I'm getting older, I see that it's less and less of a viable option to be able to get through traffic anymore. And it's time that we implement things like Vision Zero at a level where no one has to worry about leaving their house in the morning and fearing that they won't be able to return home. So that means whether it's making sure that we have bus rapid transit, whether it's having bike lanes that connect all across Hudson County, or what have you. We need to ensure that we have street safety that's viable and protects everyone, whether you're a pedestrian or a driver. Thank you.
My name is Alex Valdez. I am running for County Commissioner in District 9, and I'm very excited to be here today, so thankful to all of you folks that will be joining us. The reason I decided to come out here was because, I started out with an idea that pedestrian safety would be a big part of my platform. It grew once I started having conversations with neighbors who live on county roads, who won't allow their kids to visit friends who live on county roads, who won't allow their kids to play in the streets anymore the way that I might have 20 years ago. And lastly, I'll say my mother lives on a county road, so it doesn't get much more personal than that. Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, we have Commissioner Aponte Lipsky joining us as well. With quick 45-second intro, if you would.
Thank you. Good evening, and sorry for being late. I just come from really far away from work, but I want to be here. My name is, as you heard, Iraida Aponte Lipsky. I come from Dominican Republic, and I've been in New Jersey for over 30 years. I used to live in New York City, and I just, went to school, became a hygienist. Back home, I went to dental school, but in here, because of the language, money involved, it wasn't easy for me. So I did something that is on my field. So I became a hygienist. Then I keep further my education, went to school back. I did my biology and my BS in biology, and then I wanted to further my education still, and I went for my master in public health, which is what I'm really using right now, because I'm the coordinator for the Central and Regional New Jersey for the Children Oral Health Program. I manage a grant from the state, which is the New Jersey Department of Health Children Oral Health Program. So, and I've been a commissioner for a little bit, like maybe 2.5 years, and I love what I do because that's what I've been doing all my life, helping others, helping the community and the person that really need the most, and listen to their concern and try to help as much as I can. And I think that the county is doing pretty good job, even though some of you maybe don't have an idea what we do, but we do quite a lot, with our 12 municipalities that we try to oversee. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for all your intros. Before we dive into the questions, Talia Schwartz will begin our questioning. I just want to take a quick moment of silence. There was a crash victim yesterday on Kennedy Boulevard, and it is a pattern. And I just want to recognize that crash test. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jimmy. We're going to kick off tonight by talking about a road that Jimmy just mentioned, big source of concern for many years. We're talking about Kennedy Boulevard, which runs through the county and is the responsibility of the county. The boulevard is nicknamed the Boulevard of Death because of its many fatal crashes, including the one today. These crashes cost Hudson County residents millions in property damage, health costs, and insurance premiums, not to mention loss of life and limb, of course. SafeStreets, JC, which is helping run this event, was started nearly a decade ago due to the dangers of JFK and the death of multiple residents. At community meetings, we hear residents sharing concerns about these safety issues, and the improvements just haven't been bold enough. How do you propose that the county can improve the safety of our roads? What are the most significant safety concerns, and what should the county be prioritizing? What will it take to finally achieve a Kennedy Boulevard that is safe for all? And I think we can start, with...
Oh, I'm sorry, I just can't lay it so you're gonna jump in. That's okay. That's okay. That's a very important point, and as I know, you guys, started quite a while ago, envision this, safety streets and also bike, JC. To be honest with you, I don't feel like it's being neglected. It's just careless driver and people that they don't, really care. If they don't care themselves, so they don't care about other, because I spoke with the prosecutor and I spoke with our chief of staff while I was driving from work to try to make it on time here. And the prosecutor said it's under investigation, and that's her word, right from her, and most likely was speeding involvement. And I think 2 o'clock in the morning, a little bit past 2 o'clock a.m., there are not much traffic going on, and the lights, usually they are controlled now. They kind of put like, 5 or 10 red lights, and then they give you a green light, then they give you, they take long time. And so to try to help the people to slow the driving velocity. So the county is doing what is, what they is in the power, and they are, by the way, allocated, I believe it's $480,000 to put it toward that Vision Zero and Safe the Street. And our chief of staff right now, which is a great guy, which he's running for county executive, I spoke with him too, and he said that to really let you know, guy, that we're going to work with you, and any means possible that we could, work with you to prevent that. At the same time, is people that they need to take responsibility too while they're driving, and not to try to speed or try to get the light before the light change.
Thank you, Commissioner. Time is up. Reminder, you have 90 seconds. Colin is showing you the clock here.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, and thank you for the question. So the county's not doing enough. It's not even doing the bare minimum when it comes to pedestrian safety on JFK Boulevard. Like I mentioned, the crash that killed George Gonzalez on Kennedy Boulevard was in 2016. And the deaths and the crashes haven't stopped. They have continued, just how it's been happening over and over again. The improvements that I would push for are shortening the crossing distances. Can there be islands, right, that make sure that people can get to safety a lot faster? Because the bump outs help a bit with the turning, but I mean, you think I think of my 70-year-old mom. I'm terrified of her crossing JFK Boulevard at any point throughout the avenue. And she, so it's doing things like that. It's improving the intersections, because the longer that people get to pick up speed and as a driver without having to stop, it means that they pick up a lot more speed. So if there's no more, and I think that was part of the study, and that's the thing too, we keep having study after study, and we don't see the action. We're tired of studies. We want to see action. We see the government move a lot quicker for the circumstances. I think it's trying to prioritize people's lives.
See, I'm just gonna agree that there's a for all the information that we get and all of the we could do this, we could do that, this option, we need to commit to something more so than anything. And even if it's just a implementation of some better road markings or other kinds of implements that basically prevent cars from either making dangerous turns, having better just not bullards, but the bendy things that if you hit them with your car, that one, flex strips or whatever, posts. Something that is physically there that people can see, recognize, and feel as though that they are at least acknowledged in those sections. And especially when it's wintertime, people wear dark colors. If it's at night, better. There's tons of options, and it's not just one is going to solve things. It has to be a multifaceted attempt at doing this right. And there's tons of all the studies that have been done so far is answers. We just have to implement them, and it takes people that want to implement those answers. Oh, I think it's you get number 2.
Thanks. Thanks. So I think when it comes to road safety, the neat thing is that what you do for one kind of road user generally also improves safety for other types of road users. So, people say, oh, well, I don't know about bike lanes because I'm a driver, and how will that make the road safer for me? It will make the road safer for you. It'll also make the road safer for pedestrians. And pedestrians, I would say, are our most vulnerable road users, right? Nearly everyone begins or ends their day as a pedestrian, whether you drive, bike, take mass transit. Pedestrians also include, seniors, children, people who may not be even able to drive or ride a bike. So pedestrian safety improvements have to be paramount, but the good news is that it makes our roads safer for other road users as well. So, I liked Ron's idea about the islands, pedestrian safety bump outs, curb extensions, lengthening the time at lights, I think is a big one. I used to live somewhere where I had to, this was 10 years ago, I was in my early 20s, and I had to run to get across the street. And I always thought, what if I had a kid with a stroller? What if I was elderly and using a cane? So lots of pedestrian safety improvements. And the good news is pedestrian safety improvements make it safer for cyclists. Cycling safety improvements make it safer for pedestrians and drivers. Transit improvements make it safer for everyone as well, if designed correctly. So we can really kill a lot of birds with one stone here and make our roads safer for all road users. Thank you.
So I live in the side of North Bergen, where if I cross the street, it's Union City, and if I cross the other street, it's Jersey City. And that's around 5th Street. There are crazy intersections going also into Patterson Plank Road. And I noticed how long those crosswalks can be. And as Elena mentioned, we're not taking into account people that have a stroller or are on a wheelchair, or just simply cannot walk within the 10 second that's counting down. We need to implement equity into the mobility options. Also, I grew up riding the bus, and I would always remember, just even as a young child, how many stops the bus would take. And now that I have a car, but I barely use it because I get so anxious of when that bus stops, I have to switch over to the other lane, and it's so unsafe. You have to stay there or just risk getting that left turning to the other lane. Why don't we have dedicated bus lanes? That's a no-brainer. it would improve so much less congestion, traffic. Congestion overall is not making anyone happy. Like, it doesn't bring any benefit, and transportation needs to be it's considered, and we need to be talking to NG Transit. We need to have conversations with the community on what options there are and can be.
So we have a planning grant. We need to start the plan. We need to adopt Vision Zero. Those are simple steps. These are the things that we should do as part of it. Narrowing the lanes on Kennedy Boulevard, no brainer. The first time I met with the advocates and they said, narrow the lanes, the more narrow the lanes, the slower you drive. A 101 makes total sense. We need to do that as part of it. A bus rapid transit lane makes sense. Not sure whether we need it all day. We certainly need it during rush hours. But we do need New Jersey Transit to give us more buses. At the height of rush hour, the number 10 bus runs every 8 to 10 minutes. After that, it runs every 20 minutes. After a certain time of night, it runs like every half hour or 45 minutes. So we got to bring transit to the table and make transit give us more buses. More buses, more frequency, more people will take mass transit. We need to push the legislature to allow us to do a pilot project to do speed cameras by the schools on the boulevard. There are several schools on the boulevard in my district. As some of the advocates know, I was unabashed in saying I would support it when we had a meeting at City Hall over a year ago. We need to push our legislators to do that. Bump outs are good. We have that in some of the areas that we've started some of these different programs. We need to make the ability to at least have bike lanes connect the existing network in Jersey City. There are areas of gaps where bike lanes on the boulevard would make sense to do that also. But again, adopt Vision Zero, get the advocates involved, implement the plan once we get it done.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well, when the system is not working, we have to change the system. We cannot pinpoint on people, oh, this time it was your mistake, or this time it was someone else's mistake. There is something wrong with the system. I'm saying it because I did not come up with that county roads are the most dangerous road. We did not come up with this. People are saying this for years. And if they're saying it, there is a reason. What have we done to make them safer? I am not sure what we have done. We have to propose things and we have to implement things. If we can just point the fingers on others, things will not go or move further. What I am going to propose, one of the things is speed bumps, as many as possible. If you feel that there is a rash driving happening, let's try to look for the solution. Or other thing I'm suggesting is daylighting, crosswalks that can make streets safer. Sorry, I just want to check how many minutes I have. So, and the other thing I'm suggesting is making sure there are enough stop sign and dedicated bus lane, absolutely. Thank you for saying it, that you are already considering it. I think we need it, and especially Jersey City Heights, the public transportation is miserable there. Number of people, Jersey City has 50 to 60,000 people moved in last 10 years. Number of buses have gone down. People are paying tax for the services. They are not getting anything out of it. I don't know what we are waiting for. People are moving out of Jersey City. We do not take action. I don't know what would happen. So let's do certain positive things. Thank you.
I think we absolutely need more viable bus options, especially on Kennedy Boulevard. An anecdote I want to share is my mom always taught me that it's best to go places early and to get places early rather than getting on time. And with the number 10 bus, you can't necessarily do that if you miss that one bus and you have to wait half an hour. I can tell you so many times when I had missed the bus because I got the wrong information from typing in the bus number to try and figure out my commute, that I'd have to run to West Side to get the 80, or I'd have to run to Bergen to get the Bergen bus to get into Journal Square and maybe commute to New York. And that is a nightmare. That used to make me not want to take public transportation. The main reason that I have to take public transportation is because I don't have a driver's license, and that's by design because I fear driving a car. And the reason I fear that because I've seen how reckless drivers are in the morning in Jersey City. I used to have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to go to school at PS 11 and the school day started at 8:30 because the commute used to get so bad around 7:30 that it used to be a slog to drive on those roads. So what I'm proposing is ensuring that we have viable signs, whether it's more stop signs or more yield for pedestrian signs, whether we have just bump outs to ensure that pedestrians can cross the street without having to feel like they're running a marathon to cross the street. There are so many safety options we could have and we should have because we need to prioritize the safety of everyone's lives that are using our roads.
Thank you. I think one of the benefits of going last is you have some really great ideas to build on. Of course, I think I am in agreement with a lot of what my fellow candidates have shared today. So I'll just emphasize a few key points. The idea of bus rapid transit has been brought up. Certainly, it's not just that buses are going to make John F. Kennedy Boulevard safer. It's that we need to be able to invest alongside NJ Transit in that ridership experience to ensure that we are incentivizing ridership. To Adrian's point, if you're having to wait for a bus every 30 minutes, the likelihood that someone's going to take that bus is going to decrease. So whether it's buses that are communicating with traffic lights or displays that are showing riders when the next bus will be arriving, that's the sort of thing that's going to make John F. Kennedy Boulevard safer. In addition to that, high visibility crosswalks are absolutely key. I think as someone who comes from a district that has very, very poor visibility in some of our county road crosswalks, I can tell you it looks similar on some intersections on John F. Kennedy. And then lastly, I'll say just in reference to Ron's point, having islands where there are sort of further distances between corners are absolutely key as well. So thank you.
Thank you for answering my question. Very encouraging answers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emmanuelle Morgan. I'm the president of Hudson County Complete Streets, and I'm board member of Bike JC. And I just want to say thank you to all of our candidates for being here tonight. I feel immense gratitude that this dais is so full. And thank you for your service over many years as well. And thank you to everyone who came. So the county has committed to a Vision Zero action plan and won $480,000 to create it. As a reminder, the 5 principles of Vision Zero are that traffic deaths are preventable, that safe infrastructure is not expensive, that losing lives is expensive. That number 3, it is the system that is the problem, not the individual. And number 4, human error is inevitable. People do make mistakes. And number 5, speed kills. So my question is, what would you do? What would you put into the plan, into the Vision Zero action plan, and then how would you implement it? And we can perhaps start with Mr. Valdez and go the other direction for a change. Yeah, just give them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we started speaking a little bit to some of what these ideas are. Mr. Day made reference to narrowing lanes. So I'll sort of try to bring the perspective. Sorry about that. I'll try to bring the perspective of my district to the table, where we have an abundance of space in our lanes and no real plan to, at least plans that have been put forth to the public to actually make them more narrow. These are lanes in District 9 that run parallel to a park. I'd make it a priority to make sure that we're adding bike lanes parallel to that park that are running along that county road, Passaic Ave. On Schuyler Ave, where we have a little bit more of a narrow road, but parks all up and down this county road. I'd love to see the county play an active role in making sure that every single one of those crosswalks has signs that make it abundantly clear for every car going that way that this is a crosswalk that's often in use by children. Lastly, I'd also love to see the county invest in crosswalks that are going to be easier to see at night. Anytime that I'm driving down Schuyler Ave, and anyone who is from West Hudson who may be familiar with this road tells you that if you're driving it at night, it's really, really difficult to see when it is that you are coming up on a pedestrian crosswalk. Thanks.
I'd say something that's increasingly crucial on Kennedy Boulevard would be visibility, especially during peak rush hour, especially with the amount of schools and how much traffic is impacted when it's the end or the beginning of the school day. A lot of drivers do have a lot of impatience where the moment they see an opening in a lane, no matter where they are inside their own respective lane, they'll shoot for that opportunity and again create pandemonium on either side of the lane. And it's something I've seen as a passenger, it's something I've seen as a pedestrian, and I think it's something that we need to mitigate with either more visibility, we need to mitigate it with more, whether that's ensuring we have more, why am I blanking at the, more crosswalk officers, anyone that's able to increase the visibility to show that these areas are high impact areas where there are children crossing, there are parents crossing, there are senior citizens that are crossing, to show that these pedestrians they shouldn't have to worry about crossing the street at 8:30 in the morning and fearing that someone's going to strike them because they're running late to work, or again, because human error is inevitable, but we need to make sure that the solutions that we have can mitigate that, because again, there are a lot of reckless drivers that don't really take into account the types of scenarios that are presented there during these peak hours.
Thanks, Adrian. So first thing, pedestrian, I would suggest, again, same day lighting, crosswalk, and speed bumps and stop signs. And especially during rush hours, people are getting late. I live on Marin Boulevard. Starting from 6:30 or sometimes 6 a.m., there's so much traffic. People are honking, they are rushing, and they are angry. So congestion is the big issue right now. And when people are angry, there is a rush driving, and there are consequences. So of course, we have to provide solution. Mass transportation, absolutely necessary. And the last thing I would suggest is protected bike lanes. And community groups have done great job. The number of bikers, the cyclists have increased tremendously, which has been because of their support and their work. And but I still feel that, especially on county roads, we haven't done enough. There are not bike lanes on all county roads. We have to come up with a plan. And also making sure that working with everyone. Again, I do not believe in blame games where we can just decide that, oh, this community, this part of the government is not helping us. So I would suggest to work with municipal, state, city, whoever we have to work, and just figure out the better ways to make the community safer. Thank you.
So I mentioned a couple of them earlier. The previous speaker mentioned speed bumps. What I've been advocating, as many of the advocates have, is elevated intersections. And we've had some arguments, and we need help from the state because they're telling us the DOT won't let us have them. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I think we have to work collectively to get them to do that. Major intersections with elevated intersections force you to slow down a car. There's nothing you could do about it but slow down. Again, speed cameras by schools, a no-brainer. There should be speed signage by the schools, but there also should be speed cameras. People should know if you speed by a school, especially when school's in session or children are coming in or being let out, you're going to get a violation. The narrowing of the boulevard, like I said, that's a no-brainer. It's a 101. Additional mass transit. If you want to slow up traffic on the boulevard, you've got to have enough mass transit options. Without those options, people are going to complain once we create that bus mass transit lane, and if there's not twice as many number 10 buses, people are going to go, what did we do that for? So we have to get transit to the table. And again, the plan should have experts, advocates and experts. We should trust what they say. We should trust what they come up with, and we should have the courage to implement. And last but not least, enforcement. Once you have a plan in place, once you adopt the plan, you've got to enforce it. If there's no enforcement of the rules on the boulevard, what good are all the things that we make or do?
So with Vision Zero, first thing that comes to mind with me is the youth. The youth cannot drive, obviously. And I remember going, as Adrian mentioned, when I would miss the school bus, I would have no choice but to bike all the way from 11th Street to North Bergen High School, which is 74th Street. North Bergen is filled with hills. So biking before was not that risky on Kennedy Boulevard, but now I don't dare to go on my bike on that road. So dedicated bike lanes, especially in North Bergen, why isn't there one? Like, I was taking a bike ride with Bike North Bergen, and I thought I'll be a little safe, you know, with a small group. But no, that's not the case. It's still dangerous to even ride with the group. We still do it because it's a sense of freedom and just like getting that exercise in. But if people are not getting the safety, like the safety improvements like needed, then who's gonna go on a bike? We need to have those implemented in Braddock Park, a perfect place that makes sense to have bike lanes. In mass transit, where, as I mentioned before, a lot of cars would have to turn left because the bus is there, but being stuck there, and thinking about the working class people who don't have a car, take the bus, and have to get to work on time. We need to talk to the community, get our community input, and just talk to our experts, get involved.
Thanks so much. You know, we've had a lot of great ideas talked about already, you know, whether that's daylighting intersections, raised crosswalks, bump outs, protected bike lanes, you know, whatever the data shows will improve the safety, I'm going to be in favor of it. Narrowing the lanes, absolutely. And that, you know, you narrow the lanes, that gives you space for a protected bike lane or for bus rapid transit. So, you know, all these things are synergetic. And what we want to do, though, is make sure that this, $480,000 for Vision Zero is actually used on projects and redesigns that the data show will improve safety on these county roads. You know, we recently had the county take a federal safety grant and use it to put in on a design that included additional slip lanes, which are shown to increase crashes, and angled parking, which is shown to increase crashes. And, you know, many of us spoke out against that at the redesign meetings. You know, I spoke out on a couple of the Zoom meetings. Stephanie went on her birthday to testify in front of the Board of County Commissioners. You know, and we're using the safety money on things that will make the roads less safe. So I think we need a commitment to follow the data and make sure that we're actually, you know, pursuing redesigns that will save lives. Thank you.
So there's tons of solutions that can be applied to lots of these problems, but each municipality doesn't necessarily have the same issues that certain ones don't have. For example, Bayonne does not have any dedicated bike lanes. It has a path of following along the Kennedy Boulevard to Avenue A, but doesn't have anything where there is a dedicated bike lane. Jersey City does, Hoboken does. Having those issues in those municipalities, the county should be either assisting them in developing those plans to mimic what other municipalities have done successfully, see what can be applied, and potentially be there to fill in gaps where there might not be a connection between a potential future Bayonne bike path on Kennedy Boulevard or a potential Bayonne bus lane along Kennedy Boulevard into Jersey City, where there is basically just Greenville acts as sort of like a buffer between where the pedestrian safety is and where the pedestrian safety isn't. And I do think that there is that potential, and I do think that should be invested in, and it just needs to be more fluid. There's problems that every county, every municipality faces that can be solved, but there's some that aren't. And focusing on what can be done the most is something that should be done, rather than just sort of doing slip lanes or doing just another study.
All right. I think we all can agree that the engineers know their stuff, right? That there's studies, there's science behind it, there's data, but that all goes out the window when the politics comes in, and when there's no political decision to implement these changes, Vision Zero plans, plans to redesign Kennedy Boulevard or redesign Boulevard East, our county roads. Let me address the elephant in the room is if we're talking about leadership, the first step is showing up. Anthony Romano's not here, Craig Guy is not here, and sorry, Alex, I don't remember the one that you're running against because he's not showing up also. So it starts by showing up. And then, whether or not they're prioritizing, they're clearly not prioritizing this topic. They could pay a lot of lip service, but if they don't actually do it, and they haven't done it in 13, 15, 20 years, depending on who the official is, then I'm not gonna hold my breath for them to do it next time around.
Really, we all agree, seems to be here, that safety is first, and that's what we're looking for, that's what we want. And as I said before at the beginning, we had the money allocated for the Vision Zero, and we really had to implement it. And again, everybody said the same thing. I don't want to repeat the same thing about the engineer. They know what they're doing, the science behind the whole thing, and things, cannot be just settled down. Things, takes time, and there is logistic behind everything. And as she mentioned also, the Vision Zero, the SafeStreets, they need to a collaboration. It's not, just us. We're not gonna do it on ourselves. It's from their group, somebody's gonna be in that task force. There's gonna be maybe from the county. There is going to be, stakeholders involved in that, but they have to community also minder. They're going to be involved in that, and putting bump here, strip there, sign. They are all over the place. I see it, and I go driving through Jersey City, a lot of bumping, and guess what? People complain about. They complain now when I'm going around. How many bumps they going to keep putting in? So you cannot please everybody. And the thing is, to really try to make, the streets safer for the people, for all of us that use, mass transit. And yes, we need buses, lane, we need bike lanes, and it will come up, through frustration, but, it will take, time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Richmond from Empower, New Jersey. I'm also here with Doug O'Malley, a fellow steering committee member. For those of you who don't know what Empower New Jersey is, we are a coalition of 140 groups across the state. Our primary mission is really to work towards the reduction of greenhouse gases in the state and of course, around the world. We work with a lot of local activists with respect to a lot of different projects, but I have to say that none are better, more capable, smarter, more dedicated than Jimmy, Emmanuel, and Talia, and Tyler, the bike groups, Hudson County Complete Streets, SafeStreets JC. They are unbelievable, and they're the reason at the end of the day that we're going to defeat this Turnpike expansion. So give a round of applause to these folks, because they're awesome. So getting to the Turnpike, when it was first proposed, the Turnpike expansion in 2020, it was supposed to cost $4.3 billion. The rationales for both tearing it down and replacing it with something bigger is that supposedly it was at the end of its useful life and that it would reduce traffic congestion. We've learned, actually we didn't learn it, we sort of knew from the beginning that none of that was true. Empower New Jersey discovered that the actual budget for the project is $10.7 billion. Through actually an Oprah request that Jimmy made, we learned that their own internal report showed that the structure is not at the end of its useful life, that for approximately $500 million, 1/20th of the cost, the road can be made structurally safe and its useful life can be expanded for 40 years. And we also know, and we knew that from the beginning, that expanding highways doesn't reduce traffic congestion. It results in induced demand. And there's going to be more traffic, not only on the Turnpike, but more traffic in Jersey City. And beyond that, the people who are going to be harmed the worst by this project are the environmental justice communities closest to the Turnpike itself. So, my questions to each of you are these. Number one, do you support or oppose the Turnpike expansion? Number two, why? What's the reason for your position? And three, and perhaps most importantly, what are each of you planning to do with respect to stopping the project? Because currently, really, Hudson County, with the exception of Commissioner O'Day, who's been very helpful in terms of fighting the project, there's been radio silence from Hudson County on this. So maybe we start on this end.
Yes, I'm agree with you. What you were saying what you were saying at the beginning in terms of green gases, the pollution in the environment, the people that live in the area that will be more affected. And you absolutely right. It's not going to reduce traffic. It's going to get more traffic, and we are again going to be affected. So I think that money could be used for something more effective in terms of transportation per se, not to try to expand the Turnpike.
All right. Excuse me. I'm against the Turnpike expansion, plain and simple. And just like the Hudson County government, there's a lot of wasteful spending, just similar to what this Turnpike expansion project would be. Is throwing money at a problem without actually fixing it. What happens, when you're driving and a car merges into your lane, you stop, right? And then what happens to the car behind them? They stop, and that's what creates traffic jams, right? So multiple lanes have been proven to actually do that. You have more congestion, more traffic. And if you go to the tunnel, you know how it narrows down the lanes in order to get into the tunnel. So there's really no reason to have that expansion project. We could be instead investing in express bus lanes, and actually to the point earlier also on bus rapid transit and having exclusive bus lanes. That actually happened on 14th Street in New York City as well, not too far from here. And when they did that, the buses were running so on time, they had to slow down so that they wouldn't be too early on their stop picking up people. Now imagine that. Imagine having the accessibility of using a bus with the same timing as a good train would with a schedule if you had that frequency, but at a fraction of the price. So it's important to be able to think about it this way.
So first, question number one, no. The Turnpike expansion is just not necessary. One, they're not even finished with the construction projects that are on the eastbound side of the Newark Bay Extension Bridge, which connects the Turnpike and 95 into the Holland Tunnel. So they're not even done with that to do a proper adjustment of a traffic study. Number two, the expansion here in Bayonne, they did the Turnpike entrance expansion there because now we have all the warehouses being built that was replacing a lot of the petrochemical factories that are properties that are down in Bayonne. So now there are more trucks coming out of Bayonne more than ever. And with an expansion of that, there only would just be more. So it's already been compounded by the expansion of the Turnpike exit and entrance in Bayonne. Number three, yeah, if there's other ways cheaper to improve and keep the Turnpike longer lasting, then that should be a no-brainer. It's a situation where it's only dumping money into a project that is ultimately not going to help anybody, whether it's the environment or the sanity of the communities that are there. The headaches that the expansion in Bayonne caused with the whole, with that going on, you had to basically, in order to get out of Bayonne, you had to take a boat to get out of there. So, and with the, with 440 and the back highway as it is, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to expand the Turnpike any more than it already is.
Thank you. I've been opposed to this idea of widening the Turnpike extension for basically as long as it's been, as soon as it was announced. Back when it was $4 billion, and now it's 10.7 billion. Keeps going up. It's going to hurt the health of our environmental justice communities here in Hudson County. It's going to bring increased congestion on our streets. And, I want to rebut something that our governor likes to say. He likes to say, oh, well, the cars will be electric in the future, so it won't matter. Well, brake and tire dust are still air pollutants, and they are still going to affect these environmental justice communities. My opponent didn't come tonight, but I do want to note that we were asked the same question at the Journal Square Community Association Forum, and he refused to take a stance. So I've been extremely vocal. I've called into Turnpike Association meetings, whether in those meetings, city council meetings, my neighborhood association. I've been telling anyone who will listen, we need to stop this Turnpike, this widening of the Turnpike extension, and I will continue to do that as county executive. I will use my bully pulpit. I will send whatever letters need to be sent to the governor's office, the Turnpike Authority. I will show up at rallies, whatever needs to be done. This is a terrible idea, a waste of money, and it's going to actively hurt our communities. Thank you.
We say no to NJ Turnpike trap. $10.7 billion can be invested in better transportation and other mobility options to get to New York. I learned that only 8% of New Jerseyans commute out on car to New York, and the rest of the 92% are using, transportation on the path or the bus. That's insane. Who is this benefiting? This is not going to benefit us, and as Elena mentioned, it's going to impact the environmental justice communities already overburdened with discrimination, with crime, with all this stuff. Why is this going to be? This is going to cause more pollution. We are in code red for humanity. I hate to always bring that up, but it's the reality. And as a Gen Z, young Latina, I think about how much little time we have, and with these plans being proposed, who is it benefiting? And if there's going to be representatives saying, oh, I take a stand against it, hold them accountable. Hold me accountable when elected. Hold them accountable, because this is something that is not going to benefit anybody. And we need to invest in mass transit and into our futures.
So as John said, I set up a meeting with the mayor. We got him to be against it. I spoke at the rally at Mary Benson Field. I'll be at your rally in June speaking against it again. It's a stupid idea. It makes no sense. It's a put people to work idea. I like to put people to work. Expand the light rail from West Side Station over to Bayfront. That'll put people to work. Finally do the the flyover, when you watch 440 back up, heading in the north direction for God knows how long, that's been being delayed for years. Put the dollars into that. I'm a member of the New Jersey Leaders on Climate Change, so this is a very important issue to me. We all have to stand together. We have to speak up. Like, we really have to fight on this issue because there are powers that want to get it done, only for their own benefit. It makes no sense. You're never going to widen. You're never going to add another tunnel to the Holland Tunnel. So at the end of the day, everything feeds into the same place. We should have congestion pricing in Jersey City. That's something we should get done. Because if we have congestion pricing in Jersey City, then we'll deter all these cars from coming in here. So whatever I need to do, I'll continue to speak out, stand up, and we all got to work together because this is a serious fight that we have to do. And there are plenty of other ways to invest that money that will be more beneficial to mass transit and to keeping the environment safe.
Thank you, Commissioner Belode, for saying it. By the way, I was thinking of saying it. But, you know, being independent is powerful. You can have a voice, and you can be firm on that. You don't have to make your big bosses happy because they are not going to give you the ticket next time. So I'm very firm, like there's no way we should be even thinking about it. The worst part is people are not thinking, and those people who are suggesting it, they should stand around the peak hours there, and I think they should make decision based on that. As I said, I live on Marin, and Friday morning, Friday evening, Thursday evening, it's a mess out there. And if this happens, Hamilton Park Neighborhood Association will be a disaster. Through Google app and all these directions app, Waze and other apps, what happens, people end up going to the Hamilton Park area because then those are the streets open. And there is congestion, so much congestion that you cannot imagine. Every single time I see it, and I feel that I hope this Governor Murphy and other people who are suggesting, they can stand there for a few hours and then make decision. And of course, there should be congestion pricing. Why are we not thinking about it? Because bottleneck, we are making, just 5 years old can tell that it's a bottleneck right there. If you are broadening up roads and then again it's going to be bottled up, it's going to be a disaster. But I'm sorry, politics is bad, where you really cannot figure out what is wrong for the community and what is good for your future in politics. Thank you.
Thanks, Mamta. I think $10.4 billion could best be allocated towards making efforts to mitigate climate change. Global warming is already here. The last 5 summers, I think we've all felt how terrible the air quality is. For me, I know I don't have asthma, but the minute I step outside of the house, when the air quality is so bad and it's so humid that it feels like that I can't breathe as clearly as I should. And we've seen how negative the effects are just across the river in Newark and their air quality. It's so much worse there. So the point that I want to make is $10.4 billion could best be allocated towards sustainable climate action, where we could ensure that we have resources, that we could plant more trees across Hudson County, where we could ensure that we have more green spaces instead of politically connected turnpike traps, which I vehemently am opposed to. Because at the end of the day, who's the service provided to? It's not for the 92% of people that are commuting through mass transportation. Again, not to beat a horse with a stick, we need to invest in mass bus transit lanes. We need to ensure that we have connectivity with the bike lanes that already exist and ensure they could connect all across Hudson County. We need to invest in making sure Hudson County is walkable, because we need to deviate from motor vehicles. And the last thing I want to say is I want to ensure that we could implement a carbon tax, because that's something that we desperately need.
Thank you. I, as the other candidates on this stage, am also against the Turnpike extension. I think, the why is easy. It's a bad idea. That's as simple as it gets. It's a bad idea. And how? Well, I think first and foremost, I'm not going to be the kind of elected official that thinks they know everything. I'm going to be the kind of elected official that partners with organizations like those in this room, that partners with legislators at the city and at the state level to make sure we can put a stop to this. Now, lastly, I'll make reference to the opportunity cost that some of the other candidates have also made reference to. The opportunity cost is great. I live in a district where a portion of my district, about 60,000 residents. 60,000 residents are serviced by 3 infrequent bus lines. No light rail, no path, 3 infrequent bus lines. And we're going to spend billions of dollars on a stupid project. It's ridiculous. It's inexcusable.
Well, thank you very much for your thoughtful answers.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Johan Andrade. I live in North Bergen. I've been a Hudson County resident since 1993. They organize our Bike North Bergen, so we advocate for safer streets for cyclists and pedestrians in North Bergen. And I also serve on the board of Hudson County Complete Streets. And thank you everyone for coming here today, taking the time out of your campaign to be here. Congestion pricing is coming, and residents will be relying on mass transit more than ever. So reliability and frequency of mass transit is important for people to get to their jobs. We are seeing success for bus rapid transit in cities around the country and the world. And there has been numerous studies in Hudson County about bus rapid transit. Yet, at the end of the day, these buses are filled with passengers, but they're still getting stuck in traffic. Creating a Hudson County Busway or BRT with dedicated bus lanes will be low cost and have an immediate impact on the lives of thousands of commuters in Hudson County. For example, New York City has committed to creating 30 miles of bus lanes per year, and those bus lanes have sped up their buses up to 50%. Likewise, cities like San Francisco that are 47 square miles, similar to Hudson County's 46 square miles in size, they already have 65 miles of transit lanes while we have 0. Also, more than 50% of Hudson County residents do not own a car. So my questions are, in the face of climate change and the coming congestion pricing, how can transit be improved in Hudson County? And would you support dedicated bus lanes on JFK Boulevard? If you do support dedicated bus lanes, what will you do to work towards a quick implementation of BRT on JFK that entails exclusive bus lanes, bus platforms, bulb outs, priority signals? And also, what 3 improvements will you advocate for to improve public transportation, infrastructure for active transportation traveling like people on bikes or scooters, to reduce reliance on private cars?
Yes, so you come from North Bergen. I know my commissioner over there. And I always said I am for bus lane, and we are going to work. That's why we're working with the Vision Zero, and we want to implement the bike lanes. And also, that is why they're trying to do Summit Avenue and one of those, one way, so to get another street to offset and to get the other, to come to the other way. Central Avenue is very difficult to remove it, so because of the business, they really needed 2 buses. Kennedy Boulevard, and instead of, making it smaller, so that would be a good designated bus lane in Kennedy Boulevard, because I think the engineer from the county and the DOT, that those are the people that we're waiting for. The last meeting, if you go to those meetings, you will see, and you will be there when last week we talked to the engineer, and he said to us that they're waiting for the DOT. There is something that there is nothing you could do. And we would like to, I went with some of you riding around, and I like what I saw. And I like to ride bike. I go to the park to ride bike. And the bus lane is really something that we need to do, because people depend on buses. They don't have, there is no another means for them to transport for work or to go to shopping or whatever they need to go to. And that's why I am for bus lane and also bike lane. The bike lane is something that we need to talk it over, and like I said, to see the logistic in terms of Kennedy Boulevard area because of the dangers of Kennedy Boulevard. But definitely bus lane, that could be, easy to, I think, to implement and to do. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so our county roads connect us to other cities, right? So those are going to be crucial. Many of those, like Kennedy Boulevard, are going to be crucial to helping buses not hit traffic, making bus transit more reliable, on time, an actual option for many people. And also, why not even expanding the city bike network? We've seen the success by expanding the network into Hoboken, and that connectivity, and how much, you know, one more bike in front of you, it's actually one less car that's, you know, driving and like fighting for parking against you. So that is a benefit. I would also like to address, if you see this table right now, this is what political privilege looks like. Is coming into a debate an hour late and just expecting to sit down and have a conversation in a debate. That's all I'm going to say about that.
So for the city of Bayonne, using a system similar to how the light rail has it, we have the Bayonne Flyer, where it's a dedicated rail line in the morning and in the evenings that gets people from Bayonne into Jersey City, into Hoboken. You could immediately have a dedicated bus lane going northbound on Kennedy Boulevard through Bayonne, and see immediate improvements during the day, and to get people into Jersey City, because that's where most people get on the bus on Kennedy Boulevard, is to get to Journal Square if they're taking the bus in order to get to the trains, if they're not taking light rail. That's something that could be done instantaneously. It wouldn't affect much when it comes to traffic going northbound. Southbound, it could be, you know, something that could be implemented later if the traffic studies showcase that it's needed. And yeah, that's one thing immediately. The other thing to think about is implementing rideshare. That's something that was, I haven't heard anybody talk about that, but that's something that gets talked about in Jersey City as far as getting people around. In Bayonne, we still have dedicated taxi companies because senior citizens rely on those to get around. If they don't feel safe to drive, they got to get to shop, right? They got to get to Stop and Shop. And we still have two if they're not comfortable when it deals with places like Uber and Lyft, because they're just not comfortable with it. So those are two big options that could be done. Oh wait, you have your. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I keep doing it too. Thank you. You know, like I said before, I've been advocating for bus rapid transit on our county roads for years. You know, I ran on it last time I ran for office in 2020. You know, I've been talking about it. It's something that we really desperately need in Hudson County. You know, of course, we need to expand our rail infrastructure too, but that is more expensive and it takes longer. Bus rapid transit is the low-hanging fruit of mass transit. You know, you've got the roads there already. It's the least expensive to implement. You know, you paint some bus lanes, you add some protections, you maybe weatherproof a few stops, and you make it more of a rail-like experience, and you've got a whole nother mass transit system. You know, we want to see Hudson County build a world-class bus rapid transit system. People deserve to be able to get around with, you know, on a bus without being stuck in traffic all day. This is something I'm very dedicated to, and it's something I will continue to talk about. It's not something you have to worry about my commitment to. You know, it's not like, oh, I support it. Oh, wait, I just supported a study. No, we need to build bus rapid transit. You know, and protected bike lanes as well. Protected bike lanes save lives, like I was mentioning earlier, not just for cyclists, but for pedestrians too. It also decreases the number of crashes. So if you're a driver who's always nervous about hitting a cyclist, you know, protected bike lanes help with that as well. So again, you know, to sum it up, we want to follow the data. We want to build more mass transit. We want to build protected bike lanes. We want to save lives and help people get where they're going faster and easier. Thank you.
You guys are probably tired of hearing dedicated bus lanes and dedicated bike lanes, but it's really what gives us more options than just being in the car. I find that driving, it makes a lot of people miserable here in Hudson County. It's no fun. being stuck in traffic and all that congestion and having to spend so much on gas and all that. It's not the best thing ever. Like, there are better options, and we need to be imaginative. I bike North Bergen. I see so many people, so many students that bike to North Bergen High School. You can see the bike rack is literally filled up. Like, there's no, they're locking their bikes on fences. But what I think about is, how are they getting here? Like, what route are they taking, and how safe is it? And being imaginative, because the problems cannot be solved with the same mindset that created them. So we need to have that community input and ensure that that safety is going to be there for their kids riding their bike to school, or the mom that's going to be on their stroller and have that space on the sidewalk and not a car being parked on the sidewalk. Like, we need to also implement more equity. When equity is mentioning, how is a senior citizen waiting on Tunnelly Avenue for a bus, and on that bus stop, there's so little sidewalk that they can have their stroller or cane there. Like, we need to think about the seniors. We need to think about people with that need wheelchair accessibility. These are needs, a human right. It's not any special accommodations.
So I support the rapid transit lane. Certainly from Bayonne to Journal Square, it makes sense. Hopefully the study, not just the study, but we'll do that as part of the plan. We can fund it. That's not going to be a problem. We talk about bike lanes, and you mentioned earlier that there are no bike lanes in Braddock Park. There are bike lanes in Lincoln Park. And those from that area remember that I took heat when I stood up and said, yeah, put dedicated bike lanes in Lincoln Park. But it worked. It makes sense. It turned Lincoln Park from being a throughway for cars to get from West Side Avenue to 440 and Duncan Avenue and back. So it was a good thing. So I support all those initiatives. I don't know whether we can bike lane the entire boulevard, but we need to start by linking the existing network that we have in Jersey City that has gaps that are best met by creating a dedicated bike lane on those areas of JFK Boulevard. Other things we need to do to improve mass transit, I mentioned earlier, the expansion of the light rail from West Side Station to Bayfront. Very, very critical. More buses. We need more buses. But guess what else? Nobody else would have said this. We need more bus drivers. You want to know one of the reasons we don't have more buses? We can't get bus drivers. Transit has a shortage of bus drivers. So we need to implement a program to train and financially incentive individuals to become bus drivers.
Thank you, Adrian. Yes, we definitely need dedicated bus lanes. We all have been supporting this, but we do need more buses. I'll give you an example. In Jersey City Heights, I was talking to someone, and she said, we want to trust the mass transportation. We want to have a rapid bus transit. But the problem is, if I miss a bus, I have to wait for an hour. So if we are not providing option and solution to people, how can we expect them not to drive? And that's the problem. We need to increase number of buses. And the other example is Beacon Towers. Rush hours, they have every 4 minutes a bus, and which is almost packed. Thank you, Jimmy, for sharing all the data, all the wisdom. And I can say that the frequency can be really life-changing, and this will change the traffic on the road. This will change people start trusting the rapid mass transportation. As I have been mentioning, Heights has a major issue. I'm not sure what we are thinking about implementing there, but we need to make sure that people from Heights, if they want to come to downtown, there should be a frequent bus services. If not off-peak hours, at least peak hours, we can offer some solution, more buses. People will start trusting that, okay, if I'm taking the bus for my office, I'll reach on time. So dedicated bus lane, and also we can look into the green light for buses for faster mode. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you imagine that my commute from Jersey City to New York to go to school at NYU is longer because of having to rely on the bus system as it is right now? So by a show of hands, how many people have tried to take the 119 and that 119 has passed them because they thought they were trying to take the 10 to Journal Square? Anyone? That's happened to me way more than I've ever wanted to go through that. How many people have waited for the number 10 and that bus has passed them because of how overcrowded that bus has been? A show of hands again. This is exactly why we need bus rapid transit lanes and also more buses to accommodate that, because I know for me on average it takes about an hour and a half to commute from my home on Grant Avenue to NYU in order for me to go to classes. And that's almost improbable as a grad student while trying to maintain a full-time job, because that means you have to accommodate that bus schedule as it is and leave that much earlier to go to class, and then you have to take the bus and the transit system and leave that much later in order to get back home. So as a commuter, it's that much harder to be able to go into areas like New York City when you're relying on the public transportation system as it is. And that's why these solutions, they aren't that much more creative than what we have. They're just that much more probable for the circumstances that currently exist, which is why we need them.
Let me just refer back to some of the questions here. You know, how can transit be improved in Hudson County? I'll speak from the perspective of, again, of my district here, and to make reference to the anecdote that I mentioned before. Again, this is an area of close to 60,000 residents who are serviced by 3 infrequent bus lines. So where do you begin? You begin with that investment, adding shuttles up and down our main street that can actually get folks to even consider public transit. You know, when I think of using public transit to get here, there's not even a bus lane that takes me to Jersey City. If from my home in Kearney, I cannot take a bus to Jersey City. I can't get here without a couple of transfers. The bus lines in Kearney will get you. They won't even get you to a supermarket. So where we first begin is providing those options to the folks that need it. As it relates to dedicated bus lanes, absolutely. On JFK, there's no reason we shouldn't have one already. As we said before, you know, I think this is kind of one of the no-brainers that all the candidates on this stage support. So I'll move on to the next point. In terms of improvements like bike lanes, I come from a district where, you know, west of the Hackensack, there are no bike lanes. We don't need to add miles to our bike lanes. There are none. So I'll tell you right now, as number one priority when it relates to when I'm elected, if I'm elected, it'll be getting off the ground initiatives that will help get folks out of their cars, into shuttles, into buses, onto bikes, for all of the outcomes that we've talked about earlier today.
Good evening. Just to correct also a misconception before I answer the questions, my colleagues that are in the back and myself happened to be at a forum in my district where this discussion was taking place, where senatorial candidate McCurgy was talking about the situation with the transit, with the buses. So it is an ongoing discussion. I think I support my fellow commissioners that are involved with Kennedy Boulevard. There's none in my District 5, but definitely support the idea of a definite desiccated bike lane. With that being said, in Hoboken, I've had the good fortune to work with Jim Vance and Bike Hoboken Chris Adair, and formerly with Manuel Morgan, who has now moved on to Freeholder O'D's district. Definitely, we do a lot. I think Hoboken is one of the most proactive with regards to bike lanes and Vision Zero and emphasizing different uses of different forms of mass transportation. We never mentioned either, besides bicycles and buses, there's electric scooters now. I think there also, at the same time, there has to be a discussion on safety issues. I noticed that it's not those that use the bicycles on a regular basis, but it seems to be those that are using them for deliveries are going in wrong directions, going through traffic signals, and I think there has to be a good educational system put in point so that it is an encouragement to say, look what happens if you use bicycles or use electric scooters, that there is laws being followed and that we can encourage people. It is hard right now for the price of gas. So it's a time for people to use other modes of transportation. Obviously, electric cars, I know Bill and myself push for all the county vehicles that are being purchased now to be electric vehicles, which is a step in the right direction with regards to climate control and change. So I thank you. And again, my running mates are in the back. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates.
I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Commissioner Anthony L. Romano, Chairman of the Hudson County Board of Commissioners. I represent District 5, Hoboken, and various parts of downtown Jersey City.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers.
All right, let's give it a round of applause for all of our county candidates for spending the time today, for the thoughtful answers, diverse perspectives, and I think unanimous opposition to the Turnpike widening, as well as for investments in better mass transit. So thank you for that. If you would all file off the stage, we'll have a short segment for our state candidates. So if you want to come up to the front, got a couple name tags. For the state races, some might not be opposed, but we'll explain that. I think it's good to introduce them to Hudson County and for sort of the new districts that exist and their positions on that. We also do have two candidates that are running opposed, but they're yeah, okay, yeah. We just also want to be efficient for to respect our gracious hosts. They officially close at 8 p.m., so we're going to have to leave at the latest at 7:50. So candidates, please, statewide candidates, please come on up. We'll do an introduction. Is this on? Okay.
And hi, everyone. While we're waiting for people to switch out, my name is Jackie from Five Corners Library here. I am the youth services librarian, and I just wanted to let everyone know that we are having a family bike clinic here at Five Corners this Friday. We're pairing up with Jersey Cycles. So if you have any families or you want to learn basic bike maintenance, we're going to be having that here at the library. Thank you.
Apologies. What's that? Redistribute the mics. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so just as a point of clarity, and I think let's give 45 seconds for each candidate to introduce themselves and what they're running for. But these are two different districts. On the left, you have I think District 31 and then District 32 on the right. So on the right, they're actually unopposed, so they will be the Democratic candidates. Michael Griffin and Chanel Smith are running with opposition, and so there is a primary on June 6th. So without further ado, please go ahead and introduce yourselves. Let's go, maybe we'll start with the current assemblyman.
Is it? Okay. Yep, start talking into it. There you go. Everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. My name is Raj Mukherjee. I've been the state assemblyman representing Jersey City and Hoboken about 9 years now. I've served as chairman of the Judiciary Committee and a deputy speaker. I previously served as majority whip. During that time, I've tried to focus on improving mass transit, bringing infrastructure investment to this community, restoring school funding cuts, which may or may not come up during this discussion, expanding access to health care for all New Jerseyans, which I believe to be a human right. It's one of the reasons I originally got into the business, as well as affordable housing options. I was the prime sponsor of reproductive freedom and autonomy and climate change combating measures, and I think I'm up on time.
Good evening. My name is John Allen. I'm running for the General Assembly in the 32nd Legislative District. I'm an attorney by background. For the past 6 years, I served as the Chief of Staff in the City of Hoboken and as a city attorney there. And I'm running, there are 3 primary reasons I'm running. The first is next year we're reevaluating the state funding formula for our public education system. When I was 19, I served in my hometown's Board of Education. It's a lifelong passion that stuck with me, including into my legal career. So the opportunity to continue that advocacy in Trenton is something I'm really excited for. The second is affordability. We have an issue in our urban landscapes in Hoboken and Jersey City specifically. And the last is the environment, which I think will come up in this evening's discussion.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Ramirez. I'm running for State Assembly in the 32nd District. This is my first time ever running for elected office. I'm really excited. I'm an attorney by trade. I've been practicing for over 20 years. I've done a bunch of things. I worked in immigration. I was managing attorney for Catholic Charities. I had my own office. I represented a lot of, I did a lot of criminal defense, as well as representing parents against abuse and neglect victims, abuse and neglect claims, and now I do a lot of sex assault. I represent women that have been victims of sex assault in the workplace, as well as representing a lot of workers' rights, and just the everyday common person going against big companies. So I'm really hoping that to make everybody proud and to listen to your issues, so then I can then make you even more proud of me.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Griffin. I am a lifelong resident here in Jersey City. The 3 most important things that I'm running on is affordability, social and economic justice, and environmental justice. I am one of the co-founders of the Jackson Hill Special Improvement District, which is Monticello Avenue and MLK Drive in Jersey City. I am also a part of an organization called Bergen Communities United, and some of the things that we did in Bergen Communities United, we brought the first talking countdown, crossing signals. We brought more, pedestrian safety to the McGinley Square area by creating additional crosswalks, and I'm just looking forward to continuing my advocacy as we move on to the future.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chanel Smith. I'm also a lifetime resident here in Jersey City. I'm an educator, so my advocacy is big in education. Being in the educational system, I see how our children are, kind of being miseducated. So I'm big on bringing back programs into our community so that these children have an avenue and something to do, so that we don't have, violence in our communities. I'm also really big on health, so environmental issues are also top for me. And of course, being a lifetime resident here, affordability is also something I want to make sure that, people that have grown up here are able to still maintain and live in the city. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Richmond from Empower, New Jersey. During the first hour and a half, we explored the Turnpike expansion issue. I think we were all pleased to see that all of the candidates for Hudson County positions opposed the Turnpike expansion for so many reasons. It's $10.7 billion cost, the fact that it will make traffic congestion worse, not better. It will disproportionately harm environmental justice communities closest to the Turnpike. And of course, I think as you all know, Mayor of Jersey City, Mayor Fulop, and the Jersey City Council have opposed the Turnpike expansion, so has the Hoboken Council. I believe that it's fair to say that it's almost universally opposed in Jersey City and Hoboken, and perhaps in Bayonne as well. So the question for each of you is, what's your position on the Turnpike expansion? Do you support it or oppose it? Number one. Number two, if you can explain some of your reasons for your position. And finally, if you in fact oppose it, what do each of you pledge to do to help stop this project that will just be so detrimental to Jersey City and the county? And do you believe there's an opportunity for working across the aisle on this issue? For example, at the local at the recent budget hearings, Senator O'Scanlan, who probably doesn't share many of our positions with respect to the environment and environmental justice, raised a number of questions about the cost of it. So it seems to me that there is at least the possibility of bipartisan opposition to the Turnpike. So looking forward to hearing your answers. Chanel, do you want to start?
So I'm also opposed to the expansion. Being a lifetime resident here, I see how quickly over the last few years this city has grown. And I believe before we can even, touch that issue, we need to first handle the overcrowdedness on our streets. Our communities have been growing a lot, and it's kind of difficult. Just yesterday, Mother's Day, I wanted to go grab something to eat downtown, and it took me about half an hour to get somewhere that takes about 5 minutes. But I think environmentally wise, it makes no sense, because now we have to breathe in all these toxins that are not good for us, and I'm big on my health. But besides that, I just feel like it doesn't make any sense when we're not even tackling the first issue, which is one, that we're overcrowded right now, and we want to expand and make it even more overcrowded.
I just recently read that, well, not just recently read, but I read that, Governor Murphy has, brought into law his environmental rules and regulations, to reduce everything by 2050, but it's a contradiction there, right? I'm definitely opposed. I'm definitely opposing the expansion. Also, growing up in Jersey City, growing up in the community that I grew up in, contaminated with chromium, I saw the effects of that on my neighbors, family, and friends. And, to just, after, going through these fights with Pittsburgh Paints, going through these fights with Honeywell, and knowing the sensitivity of pollution in our community to expand the Turnpike and bring more cars in, because that's what it's going to do. It's not going to reduce traffic jams. It's going to just invite more cars to come in through by way of the Turnpike. So, some of the things that we need to do is, like you said, work in a bipartisan way. But not only that, we need to advocate, whether we're elected or non-elected officials. We need to make sure that what concerns us, what concerns the next generation. We need to make sure we're taking action so we can leave our community better than when we left it.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, I was sitting in the back and listening to the other officials that were here. And so I don't want to bore you with the same reasons, but we also talked about this, and yeah, we are going to be opposing it as well. And I think for all the reasons that are so important, right? It doesn't make sense cost-wise. Environmentally, it doesn't make sense. So we can all those reasons, but now we have to figure out if we're going to oppose it, what are we going to do? So, there is a shortage of bus drivers. So then we really have to now then come together. And I think we shouldn't have an issue. I think we all agree. It should be no bipartisan issue. We should all agree. And now get to work. How are we going to get more bus drivers? How are we going to really expand and have more bike lanes? We all agree it's not a good idea. How are we going to do this? So I think we can all come together. I'm hoping we can all come together and come up with those examples and come up with ways on how we're really going to make this work.
Well, it's very gratifying to hear in the premise of the question, Jersey City and Hoboken with a unanimous voice expressed its opposition to this plan. One thing that I want to focus on in this response is, what are we going to do about it? Opposition's one thing, but I also want to make sure that if given the opportunity to go to Trenton, I'm at the table for the discussion of what is eventually going to happen, if anything. And there are alternatives already under consideration, including one that instead of a $10 billion price tag has a $250 million price tag. That's a huge difference. And if we are going to be doing anything with respect to the Turnpike, quite frankly, I'd like to see it be anything new, be entirely dedicated to mass transit options. Thank you.
I oppose it. We all oppose it. Everybody opposes it. Still seems to be happening. So, first of all, this started out as a $4 billion proposal. Somehow this ballooned to a nearly $11 billion cost. And they can say that it's based on the obligation of the Turnpike Authority to its stakeholders, and it has the bonding capacity, and it's not coming out of the operating budget. But the truth is, when they are using their bonding capacity for this capital investment, that means it's taking away from other infrastructure projects. New Jersey Transit faces a $1 billion fiscal cliff, with the loss of federal money that we've been relying on and robbing our own capital fund and transferring to the operating fund and not subsidizing it out of our budget the way we should be. Probably come up in a different question. And just in case it doesn't, totally supportive of one of my top priorities is a dedicated recurring revenue source for New Jersey Transit, like mass transit agencies from other jurisdictions have. I've penned an op-ed that you'll be reading more about my plan shortly, but the point is, what's to say by the time this comes to fruition, if it comes to fruition, we will fight it, in 3-4 years out, that this doesn't get to $20 billion price tag, a $25 billion price tag. I think that gives us the opportunity to work across the aisle, to look at the cost, the fiscal irresponsibility of this proposal, aside from the greenhouse gas impact, all of the other reasons that that everyone up here and in the panel before us outlined. I'll just add that if it comes to pass that the repair is insufficient, the repair of the bridge, which is at a fraction of that price tag, which doesn't make any sense because they're all going to still end up at the Holland Tunnel. And then how are you alleviating congestion at the tunnel? Oh, I'm over time. Never mind. I'll somehow finish that thought later. I'll work it into another answer.
Thank you very much.
Hi, candidates. Thank you so much for coming. My name's Emmanuelle Morgan. I'm the president of Hudson County Complete Streets, and colleagues with Jimmy and Talia and the many advocates who are here. We really appreciate your coming. My question is about Vision Zero. The county has a $480,000 federal grant to create a Vision Zero action plan, and it would be multi-jurisdictional. So my question is, for state roads, the 139, the 440, Tunnelly. Tunnelly has had, I think there were 8 deaths in 2022 and 3 so far this year. North Bergen has had more deaths in the first quarter of this year, almost has had 5 deaths in the first quarter of this year, and there were 6 total last year. we World Day of Remembrance, we stopped and we refreshed the graves of Carmelina Tulsa on the 139. What can we do to bring NJDOT to the table on Vision Zero?
I think we can compel them using budget language. I think that if we have a legislative delegation that's united in that front, then we have 46-member majority in the General Assembly, 24-member majority in the state Senate. In the General Assembly, if all 6 members from Hudson County agree on something, they can stop any bill from becoming law, or at least from passing that House. And while we're a vote or two short in the Senate, what I've learned, and one of the things that makes me the most excited about potentially switching houses, if all of you and your neighbors will have me in November, then is that a single vote in the Senate allows us more leverage in fighting for our district on matters of importance like this. So, which is not something I enjoy individually as an assembly person. And so a united and effective delegation that can balance working with our colleagues to be effective for our district, but with the understanding of when to draw a line, we could, I think using the budget process could insist on it and compel them. Our experience with DOT is it's hard to get them to volunteer to do
Thank you so much. And the library has reminded us that we have an 8 p.m. cutoff, and so we need to keep our responses to about 45 seconds.
I will be very quick. I bike, I walk. My friend Ron out there, I see him in the streets all the time. I do not like to drive. I avoid it as much as possible. If it was up to me, protected bike lanes, protected bike lanes, protected bike lanes, and every place you can imagine them. I'm lucky to be running with someone like Raj who knows the ins and outs of Trenton as well as he does. I will leverage that power and that position and that voice to compel the DOT to come to the table. And you have my word on that. Even though a lot of people see me on the street, they'll pull over on their car. They say, "Hey, John, you want to ride?" No, I don't, but thanks for asking. I'm happy to walk. Thank you.
I hate driving too. Originally, I grew up in, well, I was born in Puerto Rico, but I grew up in South Jersey by Atlantic City area, so we always drove, and I hate driving now. I walk everywhere, so I get it. I mean, like, we have to protect, and we need more bikeways. But I think that the good thing is that we're all 6 of us that are going to be going into the assembly, we all get along, we all work together, we're all in it in the same fight, we all have kids, most of us have kids, and the ones that don't are very young, so they're always walking, so I think that you're going to get a united front from us in the state level for sure.
From personal experience, Route 440, I know for a fact that we definitely need pedestrian crosswalks as well as bike lanes. But more importantly, the pedestrian crosswalks. If you know that side of Jersey City, if you know Route 440, you know that there are homes just 1 block away, and people are crossing those streets going food shopping. People are going to Foot Locker, they're going to the restaurants, Home Depot, wherever. So it is a shopping district, and it needs to be more walkable. And the same in Bayonne, right? When you look at 440 South, you have it's a growing shopping area, right? Growing restaurants, and then you have the port on one side, and then everything else on the other, right? So you want to make it as pedestrian friendly as possible, and that's what these dollars should be used for.
Just to piggyback off my counterpart, I also agree. Being from Jersey City, and I'm going to be the opposite of the other candidates before me, I do like to drive. I actually drive to my hiking destinations, so I take 1 and 9 quite often. I do see the overcrowdedness, and I've seen quite a few times where people are trying to cross over the actual divider. I think we would have to come together with plans and ideas and ways to actually find safe ways for pedestrians to be able to cross from one side and another without, you know, jeopardizing their lives, as well as on 440. I take that route quite often as well, almost daily, and I see pedestrians running through there, you know, fearing for their lives. So I do feel like we need to do something to maintain the safety for not just pedestrians, but also for the drivers.
All right, thank you all for your responses. I hope we can also adopt Vision Zero for New Jersey as well and make all our roads safe, not just county roads and city roads, but also state roads as well. So thank you so much. We need to be respectful of our host, the library, and make our way out of here. If the candidates want to hang around for a little bit, maybe outside, you can speak with the constituents outside. Thank you. Let's give a hand of applause. Thank you.